If Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man had joined the MCU, what would have happened? Well, this is easily one of the biggest what-if questions in cinematic history, because as many fans already know, Sony and Marvel secretly discussed a plan behind closed doors about how they could introduce Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man into the MCU. During the production of the Avengers back in 2012, they officially talked about placing Oscorp Tower from Andrew's universe into the New York skyline. Sony even sent Marvel a full 3D model of the tower, and everyone reportedly loved the idea. But unfortunately, we never got to see Oscorp in the Avengers because Marvel's VFX team had already finished rendering the skyline before the model arrived. Sony sent the 3D model after a major technical deadline, so Marvel simply didn't have enough time to include it in the movie. Just imagine how insane it would have been if fans had seen Stark Tower and Oscorp Tower standing side by side in the New York skyline during the Avengers. Now in the MCU, Tom Holland's Spider-Man was recruited by Tony Stark, but Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man was already an experienced hero. If he had joined the MCU, Tony probably wouldn't have been the one scouting him. Instead, S.H.I.E.L.D. would have already had their eyes on him. They would track down this mysterious vigilante operating in New York and realize he deserved a place among the Avengers. And rather than Tony, S.H.I.E.L.D. would likely send Steve Rogers to contact Peter. That means the emotional bond we got between Tony Stark and Tom Holland's Spider-Man would instead become a bond between Captain America and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Steve wouldn't talk to him about advanced suits or technology. He'd teach him about courage, sacrifice, and responsibility. Andrew's Peter would deeply admire Steve because, just like him, Steve had also lost the people he loved. He lost his time, his world, and almost everything important to him, yet he still stood tall for truth and justice. That would inspire Peter on a whole different level, and over time he'd form a strong connection with the Avengers as well. Then comes Civil War. The Avengers split into two sides, and Peter would find himself completely torn apart. On one hand, Steve taught him that true heroism comes from standing by your beliefs, but Peter was still traumatized by Gwen Stacy's death, and Tony Stark represented the exact thing Peter desperately wanted: accountability and a way to prevent future tragedies. So with a heavy heart, Peter would choose Team Iron Man because to him, it felt like the right decision. Tony would give him an advanced Stark suit, but during the airport battle, that suit would fail him. And in that moment, Peter would finally realize Steve was right. Being a hero isn't about relying on gadgets. It's about believing in yourself and trusting your heart. After that, Peter would abandon Stark tech completely, return to his apartment, and rebuild his own suit from scratch. This is where he would truly evolve into a fully mature and self-reliant Spider-Man. In this timeline, Gwen Stacy's death would become one of the emotional heartbeats of the MCU. She wouldn't just be a memory, she'd become Peter's moral compass. Every time Spider-Man fought alongside the Avengers, he'd carry the weight of knowing someone died because he couldn't save them. Even when he was there trying his hardest, that trauma would follow him throughout his entire journey. The MCU version of MJ would also be introduced differently. Instead of becoming Peter's main love interest, she'd enter his life as a tech ally who helps him decode secrets and uncover hidden conspiracies. Their bond would slowly grow over time, helping Peter heal emotionally, but Peter would never truly be able to replace Gwen in his heart. Because of that, their relationship would remain more emotional and friendly rather than romantic. And finally, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man would receive the dark storyline he truly deserved. We could have gotten the Clone Saga, the Sinister Six, Venom, and Miles Warren, aka the Jackal. Using Oscorp technology, the Jackal would create a clone of Gwen Stacy. The moment Peter sees her, he completely loses control emotionally because, for a second, he truly believes Gwen has returned. His emotions would spiral out of control. But when he realizes that this is all the work of the Jackal, and that Gwen is only a clone, Peter would snap completely. He'd enter full rage mode and start hunting down his enemies one by one. And then we finally could have seen Andrew Garfield's Sinister Six movie. If you remember, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 already teased the Sinister Six in its post-credit scene through the mysterious gentleman character. We saw Dr. Octopus's tentacles, Vulture's wings, and Rhino's suit being prepared. An MCU Sinister Six movie with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man honestly could have been bigger than both Homecoming and Far From Home. And of course, there would have eventually been a Venom crossover too, because even the Amazing Spider-Man trailers were teasing the symbiote storyline. Honestly, Andrew Garfield's MCU trilogy might have had the potential to rival, or maybe even surpass, Tobey Maguire's trilogy. Then comes Infinity War. During Thanos' snap, Andrew's Peter wouldn't panic the way Tom Holland's Spider-Man did. Instead, while turning to dust, he would apologize to Steve Rogers, saying, "I failed again. I couldn't stop Thanos. I'm sorry, Captain. I failed you. I failed everyone." Hearing those words would completely break Steve emotionally, and this time, Steve would fight harder than ever to convince Tony that they absolutely had to bring everyone back. Tony would still figure out time travel, the Avengers would retrieve the Infinity Stones, and the snap would eventually be reversed. But during the final battle, instead of Tony Stark sacrificing himself, Steve Rogers would be the one to perform the snap and die defeating Thanos. For Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, that would become the most heartbreaking moment of his entire life. But sadly, none of this actually happened. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 didn't receive the support Sony hoped for, and during a meeting for The Amazing Spider-Man 3, Andrew Garfield reportedly became very sick and couldn't attend. According to reports, Sony decided to fire him after that incident, and now, years later, many fans have realized that maybe The Amazing Spider-Man 2 deserved a better reception, because if things had gone differently, the entire Spider-Man legacy inside the MCU might have looked completely different today. Still, Tom Holland's Spider-Man has done an amazing job in the MCU, and fans genuinely love his journey too. Brand new day is on the horizon, so things are still looking exciting. And thankfully, Andrew Garfield was eventually brought back in No Way Home, which honestly felt like a beautiful moment for longtime fans. Now everyone is waiting to see whether Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man returns again in Avengers: Secret Wars. I still remember how, during the Age of Ultron era, a fan-made Andrew Garfield post-credit scene went massively viral online. People were completely convinced that he was about to join the MCU. At the time, it genuinely felt believable, but unfortunately, it never happened. Still, there's always hope that Sony could bring Andrew Garfield back to lead their Spider-Man universe once again and finally give us The Amazing Spider-Man 3. And honestly, seeing him swing back into action one more time would be absolutely legendary. But personally, I think Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man was simply ahead of his time. Back when The Amazing Spider-Man movies released, fans were still heavily attached to Tobey Maguire's version, so Andrew never really got the fair chance he deserved. And honestly, if you go back and watch those movies today, you'll realize that Andrew Garfield absolutely nailed the emotional side of Spider-Man. His Peter Parker actually felt human. The pain, the loneliness, the guilt after Gwen's death. You could genuinely feel every emotion through his performance. Even today, many fans still say that Andrew Garfield had the most comic-accurate Spider-Man personality because his Spider-Man was funny, emotional, awkward, and broken all at the same time. And after No Way Home, people finally started appreciating him properly. That movie reminded everyone just how incredible Andrew really was in the role, especially the scene where he saves MJ. You could literally see the pain of Gwen Stacy's death still living inside him. That single moment healed both the character and the fans emotionally, which is why I honestly believe Sony still has one last golden opportunity with Andrew Garfield. If they bring him back with a darker, more mature story, it could easily become one of the best superhero comeback stories ever made. Because unlike before, this time the audience is actually ready for it. And let's be real for a second. Sony's Spider-Man universe desperately needs a true Spider-Man right now. Most of their recent projects haven't really connected with audiences the way they expected. The Venom movies worked mainly because fans already loved the character, but outside of that, the universe still feels incomplete without Peter Parker being at the center of it. And Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man could honestly fix that problem instantly. He already has the emotional depth, the fan support, and now he also has the nostalgia factor working perfectly in his favor. Imagine an older, more broken version of Andrew's Spider-Man leading an entire universe while struggling with loss, responsibility, and redemption. That would feel fresh, emotional, and completely different from both Tobey and Tom's versions. And if Sony truly wants fans to reconnect with their universe again, bringing back Andrew Garfield might honestly be their smartest move possible. At the end of the day, no matter which Spider-Man people grew up with, I think most fans can agree on one thing: Andrew Garfield deserved better. And maybe his story still isn't over yet.